So hi, my name's Claire. I'm running one of the programs that Natalie briefly mentioned earlier, and it's really been absolutely delightful to have the opportunity to work with Questacon. I'd just like to pay very special thanks to Nat and also to Aidan and Alex who aren't here. So Nat, make sure you tell them I said thank you. They're wonderful, wonderful people. So I guess some of the messages that I'm going to touch on are I'm going to outline the program, and I'm going to just outline how I run it. I don't have any bells and whistles facilities. I came out of the classroom as a science and maths teacher and started working for the MDBA, Murray-Darling Basin Authority, and thought, gee whiz, this is a big area. I work in a boring office block. It doesn't really represent our people. What can I do to get out there? And so this is a bit of my journey in doing that. I'll just go forwards. Okay, so the Basin Champions program is really a program that aims to get students in classrooms along a connected river system talking to each other and thinking about how what they do in their local patch of the river has wider reaching impacts. And it's also just really, really fun, and it's a good way of getting the brainiacs that I work with out of the office into the studio and talking with students. So I'll talk about how I do that now. So I'll start out with a bit of context. What is the Murray-Darling Basin? Many of you will have heard of it through various channels, the press for starts. So it's a bit of a story of the good, the bad and the managed, and I'll talk you through it. So this is the space. It's 1 million square k's or a bit over, and I deal with schools from a vast array of these regions. It's very remote, so many different regional communities, and we also have 4 states and the ACT in the basin, so lots of different systems to work with. It's really valuable in terms of communities. Around 2 million people living in the basin, provides water to around 3 million people, including myself. I'm in Canberra now. Also 40 different Aboriginal nations, and if you're interested, we've got a series of 40 different geocached videos coming live soon, so they'll have Indigenous stories from each of those different nations, so stay tuned. It's also Australia's most important agricultural region, so around the half of the food that we eat in Australia comes from there, and it could support all of us. And additionally, there's countless endangered species of frogs, birds, mammals, plants, you name it. It's just fantastic, and around 30,000 wetlands in the basin. So really special for humans, for economy, and for our environment, all of those needs. The bad, however, I could prattle on all day about the issues of the basin, but they all stem from having a population that depends on water and also having a natural cycle of drought and flood. So we're moving back into our next drought cycle, so you should expect to see it on the horizon. And we have huge evaporation rates, and water quality and quantity is a really big challenge. So on top of that, we've got a history of management. We like to have water flowing down the rivers year-round so that we can grow food, so that we can live in communities, but that does cause its own certain problems. So I've just got a number of different images here showing some of the different management structures. So the MDBA does loads of different things. We have soil scientists, we have salinity scientists, we have engineers, hydrologists, modellers, you name it, they all work we're independent government organisations, so we're a science body. The last picture there was just the basin plan. So that's what we're probably most known for at the moment, but it's a fairly small part of what we do. So that's the context, and I'll now talk about the Basin Champions program. So what we do, I basically got a harebrained idea one day. I was visiting Rob Bunsley over at Questacon doing some activities for World Water Day, and I thought I'd take the studios for a test run with the school down the Riverina. I thought, this is really fun. So my first video conference was as a teacher doing Laser Fest, I think in 2006 or 7. I just loved it. I love being able to talk with people who were outside of my world, and now I'm on the other end of that. So it's Australian curriculum linked. It's linked to science, geography and the cross-curriculum priority areas of sustainability and Indig. So any of those reigns. But if you're a history teacher or an art teacher, there's also a lot of applicability there. And I deal with schools, it's targeted at years 5 to 8, but we've dealt with year 3 up to year 10 students in the pilot round. So a big range and a lot of combined classes, especially the 3 to 6 mould. Especially in the regional remote areas, there are a lot of combined classes, and we've got both state, Catholic and I think an independent school on board, so across those different systems. Now, we've had to link up differently with the different systems, so we've used both Skype and we've used Dart connections for linking up with different systems, and I'll talk about how we've done it in a moment. All right, so all of the different schools link up for a launch. We talk about what the Murray-Darling Basin is and talk about what they'll be doing in their program. So they're all talking simultaneously. I'll preface that the Dart schools are talking simultaneously and the Skype schools are talking simultaneously. They then choose an investigation topic. It really doesn't matter what they choose. As long as it's looking at their local river environment, they can choose any topic they want, and they do. We've had topics such as, turbidity. We've had Year 10 classes looking at the salinity of their soil and how upstream and downstream of irrigation districts affects the reading in the water. We've had fish. We've had all different sorts of things. And the next step, where the brainiacs from the MDBA come in, is I link them up with a mentor, and their mentor helps them through the process. So they do undertake their investigation for approximately 2 terms, 10 weeks, 2 terms. We have to be a bit flexible because of the different term breaks from all of the different states, but that's all right. I'm happy to be flexible. Link them up with a scientist that is best situated to help them with their particular type of research. So I'm just blessed. I have so many different people I work with. They all have PhDs, triple PhDs in some cases, in things like astrophysics, which I first found a bit random, but it's really useful in being able to model the flows of the rivers and so on. And so the students develop a relationship with their mentor. The mentor helps them out, and also our work is often regionally based. So many of the employees from the MDBA will actually visit the schools and have an in-class talk during their field trips out looking at communities in the basin. And at the end of the program, all of the schools develop some kind of song or dance or show, or even just a boring PowerPoint, and show it to the other schools participating. Now, the nuts and bolts behind why we're doing this is not so that students can learn about the particular type of fish in their river or the particular effect of salinity in their local region. That's a really good thing. But it's to get them talking about how what they do in their local region affects what's happening downstream, and how what's happening upstream can have impacts upon them. And the whole concept of sharing water equally, and the whole concept of what I do in my local area has really far-reaching consequences in being able to talk with the students further downstream. So I just stress that I don't have bells and whistles equipment at work. I go to work in an office, I have a computer, and that's about it. But I've managed to find other organisations who are happy to host, and it's very, very inexpensive. So if you have ideas and don't have the technology, there are people out there who do. And we've been using the video conferencing just to get those students talking to each other. So we will be doing it again next year, but I think the big difference we'll be looking at having next year is that the students will be required to undertake an action plan. So, for example, working with their local catchment management authority or working with a land care group to implement some kind of change, and then getting back together with their mentor to talk about how that activity in their local area has improved the local region. So whether it be because it's improved the environment, whether it be because they've brought about some kind of agricultural reform. Now, I should add that many of the students we work with are farming families, and so they live on the land, work with the land, parents are farmers, and so it's great to be able to talk with people who are directly impacted by the work that the organisation I deal with, that we do, that's our business, and so it's taking that outside of the office and outside of Canberra to the school districts beyond. So that's the Basin Champions program. I wanted to be short and sweet, and I was, because I knew I was last in the day. But so I just want to very quickly touch on a couple of other digital things that are on the horizon for the MDBA as well. They might be of interest, and we have a subscription list online if you are of interest, if you want to keep tuned. I'm just having an app developed. It's a frenzy game where you can play the water cycle. So students can do something that's not the typical experiment playing the water cycle, and it's not a boring fill in the evapotranspiration stage here. So that should be coming live fairly soon. And as I mentioned, we've also got the geocached Ringballen Indigenous Stories features that will be coming live fairly soon. So stay tuned for those different opportunities. On a non-digi space, I've just worked on a publication with the Centenary of Canberra, and I have they've got oodles of free copies available for schools. If you're interested, come and have a look. And the Centenary of Canberra has money to send those out, which is fantastic. And we have a whole bunch of lesson plans and videos and short interviews that showcase careers and pathways in science and mathematics on our website. Are there any questions?
So is this project something that you do term 1 and term 2 for the set schools that said they wanted to do it, and it's sort of once a year, so it's not an ongoing thing that any school can take part in?
That's right. So it will be on again next year in terms 1 and term 2. In the pilot, we restricted it to schools within the Murray-Darling Basin. Next year, what we'll be doing is we'll be restricting the mentor partnership, first dibs, to schools within the Murray-Darling Basin. Now, the limiting factor is always going to be how many scientists we can get to partner with schools. Fortunately, or big workloadly, the Bureau of Meteorology and many of the catchment management authorities have also put up their hand to offer their experts that they would like to partner through this program, which is very exciting. I'm still figuring out the logistics in my head, but that means there's a whole bunch of different still Murray-Darling Basin related themes. Schools like Abbottsley that are outside the Murray-Darling Basin will be able to tune in, should they wish, for those weekly mentor-led sessions. So that will be learning things like environmental watering, or about the Murray-Darling Basin, or about salinity, and undertake investigations in their local region should they wish, but it's outside the river system, so you don't have the element of talking about connectivity within a big river system. Does that make sense?